It started with something small. You were having a perfect evening together. Dinner was great, conversation was flowing. She was laughing, touching your arm, leaning into you like you were the only man alive. Everything felt effortless, and then out of nowhere she said something that hit you like a slap. Maybe she mentioned her ex, casually, almost too casually. Maybe she pulled her phone out mid-conversation and started texting someone without explanation. Maybe she looked you dead in the eyes and said something slightly cruel wrapped in a smile. Maybe she suddenly went quiet and cold for no reason you could identify. And just like that, the warmth evaporated. Your stomach tightened, your mind started racing. What did I do? What changed? Was it something I said? Did I misread the whole night? You scrambled. Maybe you over-explained yourself. Maybe you got visibly irritated. Maybe you chased harder, complimenting her more, laughing louder, trying desperately to get back to that warm place you were 5 minutes ago. And she watched, quietly, carefully, with a precision you did not understand and were never meant to see. Because that was the test. Today, we are going deep into one of the most confusing and psychologically fascinating behaviors in female psychology: testing. Why women do it, what they are actually looking for when they do it, what happens in her mind when you pass, what happens when you fail, and why understanding this single dynamic will transform every relationship you ever have with a woman for the rest of your life. Let's start with a question most men never think to ask. Why would a woman deliberately disrupt a moment that is going well? Why would she introduce tension into an interaction where everything is flowing? It seems irrational, self-sabotaging even. Why would anyone threaten to break something good? The answer lies in evolutionary psychology. And it is not irrational at all. It is one of the most sophisticated screening mechanisms nature has ever designed. Dr. David Buss, professor of evolutionary psychology at the University of Texas, has studied mate selection strategies across 37 cultures spanning 6 continents. His research consistently reveals that women face a unique biological dilemma that men do not. The cost of choosing the wrong mate is astronomically higher for women than for men. Pregnancy, childbirth, nursing, years of vulnerability while raising offspring. These biological realities meant that for hundreds of thousands of years, a woman who chose a weak, unreliable, or emotionally unstable partner did not just experience heartbreak. She faced potential death. Her children faced potential death. So evolution built a screening system, a way for women to evaluate male quality not through what a man says about himself, but through how he behaves under pressure. Because words are cheap, promises are easy, but a man's reaction when the ground shifts beneath his feet reveals everything about who he actually is. That screening system is what we experience today as testing. Now let's get specific about what these tests actually look like, because most men do not recognize them when they are happening. They experience the emotional impact but miss the underlying structure entirely. Tests generally fall into 4 psychological categories. The first category is the loyalty test. This is when she mentions another man, an ex-boyfriend, a coworker who has been flirting with her, a friend who asked her out. She drops this information into the conversation and then watches. She is not trying to make you jealous, although that is how it feels. She is evaluating your response to a perceived threat. If you react with visible insecurity, if you interrogate her, demand details, or become passive-aggressive, her subconscious registers that you do not trust your own value. You perceive other men as genuine threats because deep down you are not sure you are enough. And that registration does not happen intellectually, it happens in her nervous system. Something tightens, something pulls back, something whispers he is not the one. But if you respond with calm acknowledgement, maybe even genuine disinterest, if your body language stays open and your voice stays steady, something entirely different registers. He is secure. He does not need to compete because he already knows where he stands. And that quiet self-assurance triggers attraction at a level that no amount of jealousy or possessiveness could ever reach. The second category is the compliance test. This is when she asks you to do something unreasonable or makes a demand that subtly crosses a boundary. Maybe she cancels plans at the last minute and expects you to rearrange your entire day. Maybe she asks you to change something about yourself, your hair, your clothes, your friends, your schedule. Maybe she makes a request that you can feel in your gut is not about the request itself, but about whether you will bend. Most men comply, not because they want to, but because they are afraid that saying no will cost them the relationship. They tell themselves they are being flexible, accommodating, easy to be with. But what they are actually communicating is something far more damaging. I will abandon my own boundaries to keep you. And paradoxically, that is the exact response that makes her feel less safe, not more. Because a man who will not hold his boundaries for himself will not hold them for her either. A man who collapses under her small tests will collapse under life's real pressures. And her subconscious knows this even when her conscious mind is saying, I just want a man who listens to me. The correct response to a compliance test is not aggression. It is not defiance for the sake of defiance. It is a calm, clear no delivered without hostility and without apology. It is the ability to say, I understand what you want and I am not going to do that, while remaining warm, present, and completely unthreatened by the possibility that she might be temporarily unhappy with your answer. That no, spoken with love and without fear, is one of the most attractive sounds a woman will ever hear. The third category is the emotional stability test. This is the most common form of testing, and the one most men fail without even realizing they were being evaluated. She gets upset about something minor. She becomes irritable, distant, or emotionally volatile for no apparent reason. She picks a fight over something trivial. She cries. She withdraws. She creates emotional weather that has no logical connection to anything that actually happened. And your reaction in that moment is the entire test. Dr. Sue Johnson, the founder of emotionally focused therapy and one of the most cited relationship researchers in the world, explains that these moments are what she calls protest behaviors. They are not attacks. They are not manipulation, at least not consciously. They are a woman's attachment system reaching out to verify one critical question. Are you still there, even now? Even when I am not easy to be with? Even when I am showing you the worst of me, are you still solid? When a man meets her emotional storm with his own emotional storm, they both drown. When a man retreats into cold withdrawal, she feels abandoned and the test fails catastrophically. But when a man stands in the middle of her emotional chaos and remains calm, present, and unreactive, something extraordinary happens inside her nervous system. Her cortisol drops, her oxytocin rises, her body shifts from fight or flight into rest and connect. Not because he fixed the problem, not because he said the right words, but because his nervous system regulated hers through co-regulation. His calm became her anchor. And in that moment, she does not just feel attracted to him, she feels safe enough to stop testing entirely, because the test has been passed. The question has been answered. He is solid, he is real, he is not going anywhere. The fourth category is the most advanced and the least recognized, the identity test. This is when she challenges who you are at a fundamental level. She questions your ambitions. She dismisses something you care about. She subtly undermines your confidence in a way that feels almost accidental but carries a sharp edge. I had a friend who was building a business on the side while working a full-time job, 60-hour weeks, exhausted but driven. His girlfriend at the time looked at him one evening and said, "Do you really think that's going to work? You know most startups fail, right?" He told me later that something in his chest collapsed, not because she was wrong about the statistics, but because the person he loved most in the world seemed to be telling him that his dream was foolish. But here's what he didn't understand at the time. She was not evaluating his business plan. She was evaluating his belief in himself. She wanted to see whether a single sentence from her could topple the vision he had been building for months. She wanted to know if his identity was rooted deep enough to withstand external doubt, even doubt from her. If he had crumbled, if he had second-guessed himself, if he had said, "Maybe you're right," she would not have felt reassured. She would have felt afraid, because if she can break his conviction with one sentence, what will the world do to him? He didn't crumble. He looked at her and said, "I hear you, and I'm going to keep going." No defensiveness, no lecture about believing in him, no wounded ego demanding an apology. Just a man standing quietly in his own truth. She never questioned his business again, not because he proved her wrong, but because he proved himself right. Now I need to address something critical before we go further. Not every difficult behavior from a woman is a test. Some behaviors are genuine distress, some are trauma responses, some are signs of incompatibility or even toxicity. Learning to distinguish between a subconscious test and actual harmful behavior is essential. A test comes and goes. It has an almost rhythmic quality. She creates tension, watches your response, and then the tension dissolves if you respond well. You can feel the relief in the air afterward. A pattern of genuine disrespect is different. It is sustained. It escalates. It does not resolve when you respond with strength. It punishes you for having strength. If a woman's behavior consistently leaves you feeling diminished, confused, and emotionally drained regardless of how you respond, that is not testing. That is something else entirely. And the strongest response to that is not passing a test. It is walking away. Because the same self-respect that allows you to pass a test is the self-respect that allows you to recognize when you are not being tested, you are being mistreated. So what does all of this mean practically? It means that the moments when she is most difficult are often the moments when she is most vulnerable. She is not trying to push you away. She is trying to find out if you are safe enough to stay. She is not attacking your character. She is searching for its foundation. And the foundation she is looking for is not perfection. It is not stoic emotional suppression. It is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of feeling combined with the ability to regulate it, to feel the sting of her words and not let them rewrite your identity, to feel the pull of her withdrawal and not chase her into desperation, to feel the heat of conflict and remain warm rather than going cold. This is extraordinarily hard. I want to be honest about that. It requires a level of emotional maturity that most men were never taught and never shown by example. It requires you to have done your own inner work, faced your own insecurities, built your own sense of worth on a foundation that does not require her approval to stand. But the men who do this work, the men who build this foundation, they experience something that most men never will. They experience the moment when she stops testing, when her nervous system finally exhales, when the walls come down and she lets him see the real her, not the performance, not the armor, not the Instagram version, the raw, unguarded, terrified, magnificent truth of who she is. And that moment, when two people stand in front of each other without pretense, without defense, without fear, that moment is not the beginning of a relationship. That is the relationship. If this reframed the way you understand the women in your life, subscribe and stay with me. We are building something deeper than dating advice here. We are building understanding. Share this with a friend who keeps wondering why things fall apart when they seem to be going perfectly. It was never falling apart. It was being examined. I will see you in the next one.